Hello and welcome to a Drafthouse Diary for Tuesday, June 25th, 2024, when I came out here to the Alamo Drafthouse at Littleton's Aspen Grove to see The Bike Riders. This is the Jeff Nichols movie based on the nonfiction book by Danny Lyons, who in the 60s into the early 70s interviewed members of Midwestern motorcycle clubs and people related to them, and took photographs and turned this into a book by the same title, The Bike Riders. This was in no way a documentary. It was a fictionalized portrayal of the kinds of stories represented in Lyons' book, but it clearly did pull characters from that book and try to capture the subculture that Lyons documented. And that's what this movie really was about. It was about a subculture and about the strange and terrible journey through which something that began through a genuine passion for motorcycles and people who loved motorcycles became something bigger and something out of control of its founder, until it went from being a subculture that brought some positivity and some meaning into some people's lives into an organization that was mostly about enforcing its own rules and eventually a criminal gang. At the heart of this movie is a trio of characters. There's Johnny, the founder and longtime leader of the club, played by Tom Hardy. There's Benny, who is an outsider among outsiders, and he is the person that Johnny sees as the most likely and best choice to be his heir, his successor in leading the club, and Benny wants nothing to do with that. And there's Kathy, the true outsider who is introduced to this world by accident, falls in love with Benny. They're married within weeks, and most of the movie is driven by this tension between Benny's devotion to Kathy and his devotion to Johnny and the club. That's a rather thin thread on which to hold up this movie, but it works because there are other things happening. Character developments, some degree of plot, but mostly it is about the vibe. It is about the world that it's portraying and letting you be immersed in that. The performances are generally good. Tom Hardy and Austin Butler, they're very talented. They do a lot with what they're given, but they're not given very much. They are rather one-note characters. Jodie Comer playing Kathy is amazing. She is the main thing that makes this movie work. She takes what very much could have been a Midwestern caricature and turns it into a character with emotion and with nuance, and someone who we care about her just as she begins to tell a story, because she is so human and she injects the stories she's telling with so much meaning and so much humanity and so much detail. Another noteworthy performance is Michael Shannon, who takes a supporting role and turns it into such a complete character with such depth. Again, somebody we care about just from listening to him tell a story for a few minutes. The movie is not perfect. Its structure gets close to being overworked at times, as it doesn't tell the story in strict chronological order, and the framing device of Kathy telling her stories to Danny Lyons with his camera and his tape recorder, it is not quite overused, but there are times when it gets a little bit distracting. It is saved by how good Comer is in those scenes as she is in the rest of the movie. Other parts of my trip to the Alamo. The pre-show began with the same Evel Knievel motorcycle safety video that they included in the pre-show for Furiosa, but here it was the long version, much longer than what I had seen before, with lots of educational details about how to ride a motorcycle safely on highways and in traffic. And it was a great part of the pre-show for this movie, because it really did teach me things that were relevant to the movie, and it gave me at least a tiny little bit of additional understanding about what it's like to be out there riding motorcycles like these characters are. So I really appreciated the fact that that was part of the pre-show. Most of the rest of the pre-show was trailers for 60s and early 70s motorcycle gang movies. Actually going back to the 50s, The Wild One, but they also had Hell's Angels '69, The Wild Angels, She Devils on Wheels, which was about the female motorcycle gang, the Man-Eaters. They didn't have a trailer for Easy Rider, but they did have a Director's Select section where Jeff Nichols talked about movies that were inspirations or influences on the bike riders. They included The Wild One and Easy Rider, of course, but they also included things like Goodfellas, movies about subcultures and portraying them from different points of view. And also a movie that gave him the inspiration to use recordings of interviews and work that into the dialogue to create a narrative movie of this type. And that Director's Select is on the Alamo's YouTube channel, so I'll put a link to that in the description. I did get some dinner. I got the Henry dog, which I had about a year ago because it was part of the special features menu for the Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's back on the menu as a special feature for the 1989 time capsule, which includes Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. The Henry dog is a bacon-wrapped hot dog that also has jalapenos and their spiced aioli and a spicy carrot slaw. A lot of the things in the description talk about being spicy. There was a fair amount of sweetness as well, maybe as part of that slaw or part of the aioli. So it had a nice flavor. It's one of the spicier things I've had here at the Alamo, but still not particularly spicy. Very good jalapenos tonight, a lot of flavor. So I enjoyed that. Wouldn't get it all the time, but I was glad to see it come back to the special features menu. The staff, very friendly, very efficient. The service here at the Littleton Alamo has been very good in recent months. I hope you enjoyed this Drafthouse Diary. If you did, please click that like button. And if you want to be sure to get more of these, click subscribe. But most important, thank you very much for joining me. I'll be back soon with more. In the meantime, enjoy your movies. And when you do, stay till the end of the credits.